Human history is filled with civilizations that once flourished, only to collapse and vanish. Mighty empires, wealthy cities, powerful armies, all eventually reduced to ruins. The Quran constantly reminds us to reflect on these stories, not as distant history, but as living lessons. Surah Al-Hijr, the 15th chapter of the Quran, is one such reminder. Named after the rocky dwellings of the people of Thamud, this surah warns humanity about the consequences of arrogance, disbelief, and rejection of divine guidance. At the same time, it reassures the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his followers, that the Quran is preserved and that patience is the key to success. Let us explore the lessons from the destroyed nations mentioned in Surah Al-Hijr and how they still speak to us today. The surah takes its name from the people of Al-Hijr, a community that lived in stone-carved dwellings in northwestern Arabia. These people were blessed with prosperity, strength, and skill. They carved homes out of solid rock, structures so impressive that some still stand today as archaeological sites. Yet, despite their blessings, they denied their messenger, Prophet Salih. They mocked his call to worship one God and demanded miraculous signs. When a she-camel was sent as a clear sign from God, they defiantly killed it. The Quran records their fate. A thunderous blast overtook them, leaving their once mighty homes as silent ruins. Their story is not just about ancient arrogance. It is about what happens when people take blessings for granted, reject truth, and allow pride to blind them. Surah Al-Hijr also recalls the story of Prophet Lot and the people of Sodom. Their corruption, immorality, and defiance led them to reject Lot's warnings. When divine punishment came, it was swift and devastating. Their towns were overturned and stones rained upon them. This story highlights that moral decay, when unchecked, can lead to social collapse. It is a reminder that strength and prosperity cannot protect a society that loses its moral compass. The surah briefly references other destroyed nations as well, people who mocked prophets, demanded miracles, and then dismissed them. Despite repeated warnings, their arrogance sealed their fate. These stories are not meant to entertain. They are signs, reminders, and warnings for all who come after. What can we learn from these destroyed nations? 1. Material power is not enough. The people of Thamud had engineering genius. The people of Pharaoh had armies. The people of Sodom had wealth. But none of these could save them when they abandoned justice and truth. 2. Arrogance blinds the heart. Each nation thought they were untouchable. They mocked their prophets, ignored warnings, and ridiculed faith. Their pride led them to destruction. 3. Signs alone do not convince. The Quran shows us that even when miracles were given, people still denied. The problem was not the absence of evidence, it was the hardness of their hearts. 4. God's justice is certain. When people persist in corruption after warnings, justice eventually comes. This is not cruelty but accountability. 5. The ruins are reminders. The remains of Al-Hijr still exist today in northern Arabia. Travelers who see them are meant to reflect. These were real people with lives, hopes, and power, yet today they are gone. Surah Al-Hijr is not only about destroyed nations. It is also a source of comfort for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Quran tells him not to grieve excessively at the denial of his people. Rejection is painful, but he is reminded that even earlier prophets were mocked. The surah also reassures him that the Quran is divinely protected. Indeed, it is we who sent down the Quran, and indeed, we will be its guardian. Verse 9. This promise is unique. Unlike the previous revelations which were altered or lost, the Quran is preserved word for word, letter for letter. 14 centuries later, this promise still stands. At first, the destroyed nations may seem like ancient stories with little relevance to modern life. But their lessons are timeless. In our world, nations rise and fall. Some put their faith in technology, wealth, or military power, thinking these will guarantee their survival. Others slip into moral corruption, injustice, and arrogance. Surah Al-Hijr reminds us that no society is immune. We, too, live among towering buildings and advanced systems. But the real question is, do we live with humility and justice, or with arrogance and heedlessness? Do we use our blessings with gratitude, or do we take them for granted? The stories of the destroyed nations are not meant to scare us into despair, but to wake us up to responsibility. They remind us that history repeats itself when we fail to learn from it. Surah Al-Hijr is both a warning and a comfort. It warns us by pointing to the ruins of those who came before, civilizations that thought they were invincible, but were swept away by arrogance and corruption. And it comforts us by reminding believers that the Quran is preserved, that patience is rewarded, and that God's justice is always near. So the next time you see the ruins of an ancient city, or read about the fall of a mighty empire, remember, these are not just stories of the past. They are mirrors for our present and future. The lessons of the destroyed nations are clear. Power fades, arrogance leads to ruin, but faith, humility, and gratitude endure. That is the timeless message of Surah Al-Hijr.